It's Cardboard Time, episode number 88, and I'm your host, Arwen Kathke. On today's episode, we have a review of With a Smile and a Gun, Puppets in High Places, Twilight, Inscription, and Mechanical Beast. Well, let's talk about this shelf of aspiration and a lot of movement in a very positive direction. It is at 136. That is down by 5 since the last time that we chatted. A lot of stuff getting played, and thanks to Brian Chandler from Colorblind Games for kind of introducing me to the side table concept. So one thing that Brian Chandler always does is he has a little side table set up where he has a game that's able to be set up, that's able to be played. So you can take a couple of turns, and then you can, basically do some work and then go and have a turn. And let me tell you, this actually did help my productivity at work. Because it was kind of like a little reward. I got to take a turn after I got something done, and then I would go and do something else, and I'd take a turn, and it was really, really cool. I got through Twilight Inscription that way, and really liked the concept. So let's go through those games. One that was incoming that prevented me from getting down to 135 this week, and that was Charcuterie, the board game. I am looking forward to this. I've heard a lot of really good things from people who have received their copies. The artwork is fantastic, I can tell already. Love looking at that and looking at the box. I did punch everything out. And I think it's going to be a fairly light game to play, and I'm very interested to see how it does play. 6 games played. The first was Last Lighthouse. That was a button shy game, a little solo game, and enjoyed that well enough. The artwork was definitely a kind of a divergence from what you would normally think of a button shy game. Where you kind of have more of the cute, in a lot of cases, artwork or beautiful artwork. This was downright kind of scary and morbid. So it was interesting to see that divergence from what their normal offerings are. The second game that I played is Lacrimosa, and I do want to talk about this one very, very soon. This was a fantastic game by Devere. One that my fiance Allie got me for Christmas this year, and I am very happy to say that I was very pleased with it, but I do want to talk about it more in depth at some other time. I didn't have the ability to devote the time that I really wanted to in doing this review on this episode, so on a future show. Pocketbook Adventures was another one that I finally completed a chapter of, so I considered that a play. Fun little game, very colorblind friendly if that is something that you do deal with. I would highly recommend that. It is something that fits in your pocket or backpack or purse or whatever. Very fun to carry around. Just go through like a little area of it, and then you can put it away. Had fun with this. I do foresee myself, it is on my nightstand right now. I foresee myself completing the rest of it over the next few months. Just pick up an area and then put it back down, and then pick up another area another night. So I think it'll be good for that. Papillon Gardens was one that I tried that didn't really hit for me. I don't want to dwell on this one. I did talk about it on the Call-A-Board live show from Tabletop Express. So no real need to dive into depth right now. I felt that it was kind of flawed. There were multiple issues with the rule book, and I was a little bit disappointed. That one is going to go to the sale shelf. Mechanical Beast is one that I will talk about today, and Twilight Inscription is another one that I will be discussing today. So A lot of gameplay, a lot of really interesting games that I do want to talk about on this episode. And we got 4 of them today, so we might as well get started because I have to edit this and it's Monday night and I've been procrastinating a little bit. So here we go. So the first one is With a Smile and a Gun from 2021. And these first 2 are going to be Amanda Valeron games. This one plays from 1 to 2 players in 30 minutes, designed by Amanda. The art is by Justin Langille and published by Subsurface Games. Al Capone famously said, "You can get pretty far in life with a smile, but you can get a lot farther with a smile and a gun." With a Smile and a Gun is a fist-clenching game of intrigue and sneakiness in which 2 criminal gang leaders fight over the domination of a city's underground businesses during a very noir Prohibition era. They have to outthink their rival, send the police into their business, use their network's abilities, and decide when to lay low and when to go all out. Mechanically speaking, With a Smile and a Gun is a dice drafting area majority game about taking the last 4, not because you need it, but because your opponent does. Each round, 13 dice are rolled in a pool. A player then drafts 2 dice, 1 for their movement around the city, which will place influence, and 1 for an action. After both players have drafted 3 times, a non-player character, one of 5 in the box, will use the leftover die for its own movement, affecting the game in its own way. The player who attracted the least attention, that is, the person who has the lowest sum of action dice, takes a special scheming action. Then majorities will be scored for each district. After 3 rounds, the player with the most points wins. So thanks to Amanda and Subsurface Games for providing a review copy of this game. I really wasn't sure how well 2-player area control was going to work. I found the whole concept kind of fascinating. But the answer is very well, apparently. I'm used to those massive, like, this is going to play better at 5 players or 4 players, and a lot of push and pull back and forth. But this does a really good job with adding these little police cubes into the mix, and the non-player character, also the shadows. Really kind of cool mechanics. It really does affect the board quite a bit, and really like that. So the shadow and the infusion cards provide a lot of great variety to the game. The infusion cards are basically these powerful abilities that you get to spend. You get a certain amount of them for winning areas on the board, and they allow you to do another powerful action once during the game for every single one that you get. The variable setup also provides a lot of great, variety to the game. And I was very impressed. I was very impressed with how different each game felt that I played, and really happy with that. The dice drafting in this is very tight. You have to strike a balance between what you want to do and making sure that your opponent doesn't get the dice, as mentioned in the intro, that they really need to make sure that, you get cubes where you want them, your opponent doesn't get the cubes where they want them. So it's a constant balance of trying to get what you need, and then also balancing out what you don't want your opponent to have, which I think is kind of the best player interaction, that drafting, that getting in your way without seeming like overly mean and direct. It's more of a indirect conflict where you still may have some really good options. The lowest attention mechanic also added in a great reason not to just keep drafting powerful dice. You would think, well, if I just draft all 6s and the highest dice, I get the most powerful actions. I get to move around the most. And really that does add a nice, kind of mechanic that lets you balance out what you're doing with that very powerful scheming action that comes at the end of the round that may wind up putting you over the top over your opponent for control of an area. So that was cool too. This had a great experience to box size ratio, and this is something that I've been talking about on a lot of episodes recently, but having a smaller box size, but still really keeping that great experience in there and that variability is important to me and something that I like to see, and this definitely did that. I was very impressed with that as well. The solo was very smooth, very easy to manage. Carla Kopp did the one on this, and I could kind of tell it's got some signature Carla stuff that I usually wind up seeing with her, and it works well. And this was no exception. So really good solo. Obviously, if a game is going to play 1 to 2, you want both to play really well. And this definitely does. The theme fits well. I wasn't really too personally excited about it. Gangsters aren't really my thing. I think it fits the actions that you're taking very well. Again, when I had my interview with Amanda on the last podcast, I did ask why. What's with all the gangster games and the mobster games, but they really do just kind of fit with these games that she's made. She has worked on other games that do have different themes. So from a color vision perspective, the colors were absolutely fine to navigate for me. I will say if somebody does have a little bit more severe color vision issue, they may have to mark up those cubes. But that is something that you could do, again, if you really had some of those more severe color vision issues. I thought it was pretty well done overall. I didn't have any sort of problems with, knowing exactly what cubes were where and seeing that at a glance. So that was really well done. So for my final thoughts, I think this game is going to be great for anybody who enjoys a good dice drafting mechanics. With those actions based on the strength of your dice. So you have to make that choice of, hey, what do I draft? But I don't want to draft too high or else I'm not going to get this action at the end of the round. Very tight area control. That right amount of player interaction. If you don't like that incredibly mean in your face, this is, intentionally high player interaction without, that really intense conflict, which is exactly where I want to see it. It's exactly what I like. So yeah, I think this one is definitely going to be sticking around on my keeper shelves, and I definitely recommend this. If you're a fan of area control, if you're a fan of that dice drafting and that action selection, this is one that I would check out, and not too high of a price point either. So that was With a Smile and a Gun. And on to Amanda's other game that I'm going to review on this episode. This is Puppets in High Places from 2025. This also supports 1 to 2 players in 30 minutes, designed by Amanda Valeron, published by Subsurface Games. Wow, what a coincidence. Puppets in High Places is set in the same universe as With a Smile and a Gun, but is a standalone game and not an expansion. After gaining control of the streets of Gatari City, mob bosses are setting their sights to the next level, getting a foothold in City Hall. Puppets in High Places is a cutthroat game of underhanded power. Players will go through the streets to obtain the resources they need to bribe VIPs and gain their favor. They will then proceed to the speakeasy, where they will fight over these VIPs through a dynamic tug-of-war mechanism. Of course, mob bosses that they are, they have tricks up their sleeves and goons working in the back alleys. Puppets in High Places uses an evolving rondelle, which the players will modify throughout the game, and a tug-of-war mechanism where players try to score VIPs represented by dice, whose value the players will also influence. So this was the original game. I actually got with a smile and a gun because it was something that Amanda said, hey, I'll send this to you too if you want to take a look at it. This was a game that really sparked my interest and intrigued me because I love a good rondelle. I do like a good tug-of-war, but a two-player rondelle that is changing, that's evolving, that you have some sort of control over what that looks like, I think is a very, very interesting concept, and one that I haven't seen a huge amount of games doing. So this was a prototype copy. It wasn't the final copy, so I will be making comments based on the fact that it was a prototype and not a finished version. Again, I love rondelles. This game was absolutely no different. The fact that this does evolve over time as the game progresses, so you are adding new cards in, you're shifting them, you're rotating them, and I think that that's really the secret sauce of where this game really shines, is the fact that you can change those dynamics of the game up. And there are certain patterns that we were taking at the beginning of the game that I was looking, okay, I'm going to land here, then I'm going to land here, then I'm going to land here, and I'm just going to repeat that over and over again. No longer were viable because I couldn't get to them without spending cubes, or, it was basically way too far. They were out of sequence, things like that. I think that was incredibly interesting, and really where this definitely shines. This was also tight on what you can get and where, which I feel added to the game. You could go further than your free movement. Again, you got 1 to 2 spaces, but going further than that, you were going to have to spend a resource, which was incredibly valuable. It's what you were using to bribe these VIPs onto your site and ultimately score points. So you really didn't want to spend those resources. They are very precious. So each movement, even if it wasn't directly consequential, like it was something that, I could take or leave. I was getting a resource, but it wasn't necessarily the resource I wanted. It could have a lot of potential for affecting my opponent. And this is kind of where that, cutthroat, player interaction comes in, where you really want to make sure that your opponent's not set up for something that they need. And again, it's kind of similar to the whole beat with puppets or with a smile and a gun. Sorry. So the player interaction there, like you wanted to make sure that you weren't setting up your opponent for something better than what you were getting. But, it was that constant decision that you had to make, which I really like. It's my favorite kind of player interaction. The tug of war with the dice and the speakeasy. So on the different ends, you have a space where you can go into the speakeasy. In addition to that, spaces do come out on the rondelle that directly take you to the speakeasy as well. And what you're doing there is trying to spend those resources to influence dice or VIPs to come into your area and basically move over to your side. The pip strength of the dice was how much you scored. So the higher the pip value on the dice, the higher scoring that those VIPs were going to be, the more influence that they had in theme. Players can also kind of make it easier to score those VIPs. You have certain rounds that you go through, and you can actually move up your handshake line or your scoring line to basically make it easier and closer to not have to move those dice as far, which was pretty cool as well. Again, a lot of good player interaction. Most of it was not direct. There was a little bit of a direct, interaction with VIPs that you knew that your opponent was going for. You could lower the influence value on them. You could pull them more over to your side. You could make it harder for them to kind of get to your opponent's side. But again, it's not in that direct, like mean-spirited, attacky, at least to me, type interaction that the games that I really don't like that negative player interaction kind of tend to go towards. So it was very, to me, sleight of hand, that back alley kind of cutthroat, that, very shadowy kind of feel, which again was a perfect fit for the theme. A lot of variability in the small box. This is another theme that I do want to kind of come back to with the Rondell cards and the turf tokens that come out. There's just so much variety with how they come out, how they're placed, that kind of thing. And it does make for a different game every single time. The color vision, I can't really comment on it all that much, but I will say Amanda did reach out to me with details about what she was putting into the prototype package to make sure that I wasn't going to have many issues. She said, there's substitute components that she could throw in, things like that. So first of all, I have a good sense that she really wants to make everything, very vision accessible. And she also did mention that the full version would be color vision friendly as well. This game is on Kickstarter as of this recording. I picked myself up a copy. Even if I do get a full copy of it, I would like one to just give away as well if I, get an extra out of this. It's about $30 with shipping. And I really don't think you can go wrong with this if you like a good two-player game that's right in those great two-player game, price point. I really, really highly recommend this one as well. My favorite out of the two would probably be this one, but both are really good. If you're more into the area control, definitely With a Smile and a Gun is probably going to be more your speed. If you're more into the rondels and tug of war, then this is probably going to be, more your speed. But this will be a keeper on my shelves once the full version comes in. Like I said, I've already backed it. So I was already impressed with The Smile and a Gun. I'm even more impressed now that I played this. I think, Amanda wasn't somebody that I had really heard a whole lot about before these two games and before, we were connected. But I really do like these two games. I'm interested to see what else she's put out. And what else she's working on as well. So, I know I keep talking about those small box games with big box experiences. This definitely fits that bill with that, kind of right amount of player interaction that doesn't overstep its way into being a friendship ruiner. So, highly recommend. Go check it out on Kickstarter right now. As of this recording, it's still up. That is Puppets in High Places. And another game that I wanted to talk about that hit the side table was Twilight Inscription. This was from 2022. This plays from 1 to 8 players in 90 to 120 minutes. Designed by James Kniffen. The art was by Anders Feiner, Tomas Jederuk, Alex Kim, and Stefan Summers. published by Fantasy Flight Games. The Lazax Empire has burned to ash, rejected by its subjects. The aftermath was tragedy and petty conflict in equal measure at a time of loss and exhaustion. In the ensuing dark years, the factions of the galaxy retreated and recovered their strength. Now they look upon the stars and see an opportunity, a chance to reclaim what was lost, a chance to redefine galactic civilization, a chance to leave their mark upon the stars. Twilight Inscription, an epic roll-and-write game for 1 to 8 players, offers an experience unlike anything Fantasy Flight Games has done before. With a limited pool of resources at your disposal, you'll need to carefully manage navigation, expansion, industry, and warfare as you amass victory points and earn your right to the throne on Mechatol Rex. Will your faction become the new rulers of the galaxy, or will your fledgling empire fade into obscurity? Anything can happen in this strategic, infinitely replayable game. So this I do want to talk about in the context of price. And I think this will be an important theme to kind of keep bringing up. This I purchased at the Recess Flea Market for $25. So I was ready at one point to pay full MSRP for it. After playing a game of Twilight Imperium, I wanted in. I wanted the roll and write. I wanted to see what this was all about. And I just kind of didn't. I held off, and I'm kind of glad that I did, and I'll talk about that in a minute. This looked extremely heavy wandering into it, and it was funny. Ellie and I were watching a video. I was watching How to Play, and she took a look at it, and she goes, "Yeah, no." She had mentioned, "Hey, space rolling right, maybe I'd like it," and she just said, "No. There's so much going on." While there is a lot going on at first, and I know that I've said this in the past, and I keep saying it, but it's true for a lot of games. Once you get to know the general premise of what is going on each of the 4 individual sheets, and I think that is a key in how to teach this game, is just teach a sheet and then say, okay, so there's going to be things on this sheet that you're going to do that you may wind up using as resources on other sheets, but this is what this sheet does. And then let's go to the next sheet and then teach that sheet. It's not really that bad. You get a few of the more common symbols. You get the general premise of what each sheet is going to do. This was fairly easy to navigate, especially after a single round of play. Once you really got into it, you took a view of the sheets and you looked over it and you said, okay, this is what each of these does. I'm going to work over here. Then I'm going to work over here, and the timing of what you work on is important. I would still avoid this game for somebody's first roll and write, verb and write, whatever you want to call it. This is still a little bit of a heavier game. I do think it's kind of above a 3 in my opinion in weight. So I would definitely tend to avoid this for somebody's first one. And I will say that this is kind of helped by the fact that you're focused on one sheet per round. So I know that there's some roll and writes that are out there that you're bouncing all over these different sheets and you're going from sheet to sheet to sheet. For the most part, what you're going to be doing is sticking to one sheet per round. There is one focus that you're going to be having per round. You can use resources from other boards, but really you're going to be working on one area at a time. So I think that definitely helps. That's one criticism that I've heard of Hadrian's Wall, that it is so back and forth that you don't know what you're doing, that you don't know, what you have left to spend, which I think this game does a really good job of, A, providing a space that you know what resources you have left to spend, and then B, in addition to that, the fact that you're not going from sheet to sheet to sheet all that much. The race for Mechatol Rex, the voting on initiatives, and the battling between neighbors on the warfare sheets were really the only sources of major player interaction that I saw in the game. All of them were very interesting, but it does feel a lot like a solitaire kind of game. You do have a little bit of interaction, but it's not that huge amount. You're basically just trying to make sure you get here first, or you have more warfare power than your neighbors, etc. More votes than your neighbors, if you do want to kind of go against the grain and vote on some of those initiatives. The symbols and how to get resources became, again, extremely easy to figure out after the first part of the game. I feel like I could jump in fairly easy again if somebody did want to play this another 3 months, 6 months down the road. I might have a little bit of trouble after a year or so, but right now I feel like I could keep up and just jump right back in and dive right back in. So while it does share some beats with Twilight Imperium, I feel like it stood on its own. And I feel like it didn't try to replace TI. I definitely feel like this is something that you would probably want to own both if you were a fan of Twilight Imperium. And this is not a replacement whatsoever. From a color vision standpoint, everything felt very color vision friendly. Each die with a color only pertained to one individual symbol. So you could look at the die and say, okay, this was this symbol, this was that symbol, and it was very easy to tell what you needed to roll based off of those symbols, because they were the only ones on those dice. You have 3 different colored dice. And while those could be a little bit easier to mess up from a color perspective, from a symbol perspective, they were right on. So kudos to Fantasy Flight for making that color vision accessible. This game's definitely a bit overproduced. The dice are super chunky. They're way chunkier than you need, but they are satisfying. I do enjoy that quite a bit. Regardless, I think that this was kind of a guilty pleasure of mine to roll those huge, kind of clacky dice that were almost unwieldy. They do come with these very interesting orange markers, so you're writing on your black techno spacey board with these orange markers that kind of almost made it feel like the board was glowing in a way. It was like that reddish orange, or at least it look like it to me. But yeah, the biggest complaint that I had about this game was that it was incredibly difficult to erase boards. These are almost like paint markers. I would have a roll of paper towels ready because the erasers on the markers are not going to do it. You might, be able to erase a couple of errant marks that you made and change them. But for the end of the game and really cleaning up all those boards, you're going to want to have multiple paper towels or, some sort of cleaning solution, something to clean these off, because those erasers are not going to do it whatsoever. So for my final thoughts, this game is up there with my favorite Verb and Write games. It's probably not enough to supplant Cartographers in that sense. That's still my gold standard. As far as variability, as far as replayability, that game just has so much with the different conditions that are going on. This has a lot in the box. as far as, different maps and the different factions. There are a ton of different factions and different artifacts that you might be able to pick up that kind of spice the game up a little bit. So there is a lot of replayability that way. But I feel like I'm playing more of a different game, and I would say my strategy is a little bit more different from game to game to game of cartographers than it is on here. So not enough to supplant cartographers, but it's definitely up there. I'm going to have a hard time figuring out between Fleet and this which I like best. I'm going to have to play a game of each of those, and darn, terrible. How dare. That I have to go back to both of those excellent games and play them over again to see which one I really think is going to be better. This was unquestionably worth the $25 I spent for it. If you see it for $25, absolutely pick it up. It is 100% worth that. $30, $35, I would still pick it up. I don't know if I would pay $65 for this. And I know that there's a lot of content in the box. There's a lot of markers. There's a lot of sheets. There's a lot of factions. There's a lot of those chunky dice. You got 6 of those huge, satisfying, chunky, clacky dice. I just don't know if this is $65 worth. And this is a great reminder and something that I do want to bring up again. This is something that I discussed with T. This is something that I discussed with Tiffany. Wait a while before purchasing games if you can. There's nothing wrong with supporting a publisher if you know that you want something and you're willing to pay a full price. You like a designer, you like a publisher. That's absolutely fine. Go ahead and support them 100%. But if it's something that you feel like you might be able to wait on, try to wait on it. Try to see, if it's going to come down, because this was one that I felt the need very early on to pick this up. And if I had, I would have paid $40 more for it. I probably wouldn't have gotten it out much sooner than I did, because now I'm in that kick of, hey, let's get stuff to the table. Let's work on this stuff. Where I wasn't before. I was just acquiring stuff to acquire it. So I would definitely take this as an example of something. If a game is going to be good enough to, basically sell out, they're probably going to do a reprint of it. And then if somebody's going to be selling it regardless, but yeah, if nobody's selling it, there's probably a good chance that it's going to go to reprint anyways, because people are buying it. People are going to want to buy it if it's sold out. You'll be able to see, within a couple of years. So again, glad I waited. Definitely worth that $25. This is definitely going to be up there on the top games I played of the year. I just don't know if it's worth that full price point. So that was Twilight Inscription. And then finally, I want to talk about Mechanical Beast. This was also from 2022. This plays from 1 to 4 players in 20 to 40 minutes, designed by Ben Moriata. And the art is by Apolline Etienne, a familiar name to those who listen to the podcast, and published by Gigamech Games. Mechanical Beast is a tile-laying manipulation puzzle where you play as an exploration party of engineers who, together with your android helper, must explore the body of a giant robot to find its control room and deactivate it. During the first part of the game, the maze will grow as you explore until you find the off switch. The rest of the game, the rooms are collapsing around you, and you must quickly make your way to the exit before the robot locks down, trapping you forever inside its bowels. You can change the layout of the rooms using the gears that you find within to help you find an exit. You win by getting everyone, including the people you find trapped within and your trusted android, out of the beast. The game can be played solo, co-op, or competitively with up to 4 players. So this was also a review copy, thanks to Gigamet Games for supplying it. So a couple of points that I didn't really like. There was little strategy right at the beginning of the game. So you're setting up this game and you're basically laying out your tiles. It's not super exciting. You're moving from room to room. You're getting your initial layout. Really, the game is going to start getting exciting once you hit that control room and once everything just kind of starts churning, because that is going to initiate that collapsing sequence where you're going to have to really rely on trying to get from room to room and using the gears, which I want to talk about next, which I thought were the most interesting part of the game. This was something that I thought was pretty unique. You were able to rotate, you were able to shift rooms. This was a blessing and a curse, though. It was kind of difficult to rotate the larger clusters of rooms. So you have a gear that actually rotates 4 rooms around each other. And this got to be a little bit clunky, and I could see players kind of being confused about it. Handling it was the worst part for me. Like, I understood the mechanics of it. I thought that the gears were very intuitive in how they were laid out, and what they did. Once you saw one, once you read the description, made sense. Okay, let's go with this. But it was a little bit difficult to manage, the bigger room rotation. The easy mode was a good intro for newer players. It was a little, there really wasn't much difficulty to figure out the puzzle of how to get out on the easy mode. And I will say, if you've played some of these co-op, kind of maze games before, you're probably going to want to start on more of your normal mode, where things are going to get a little bit harder. I really didn't need to use the Android the entire game in the easy and normal difficulties, although at the harder difficulties, it did become more advantageous to move that around, especially when it came to that initial exploration, so that you knew when exactly you wanted to hit that control room button. I think that, to me, this is definitely best solo. I had the best time playing it solo. I don't know if adding more players really does much of anything. One person is probably going to wind up figuring out the solution and just kind of, being that quarterbacky kind of player. So I like this solo. I think it's a decent solo puzzle. And if I were to play it again, that's how I would do it. No color vision issues with me for this game. The meeples that you're trying to rescue do have different colors, but I don't really believe it matters whether they do or not. I think it's more for your vision of seeing where they are and providing a little bit of variety. I didn't see anything in the instructions that explicitly said, hey, these are for this, these are for that. So they did have different screen printings on them, so you could look at them. They were a little bit small, but you could see those different patterns on them if you did have trouble with those as well. So for my final thoughts, this one's probably going to go into my giveaway pile. I think it's pretty okay for what it does. I do have other games that do the kind of exploration and get out of the maze a little bit better for my taste. The Room 25 game, I think, is really good at this. Subterra is really good at this. I enjoy those more. I feel like the puzzles may be a little bit better for me. Other than the gear mechanic, it's very unique. The box is also very small in comparison to those other games I did mention. But I just didn't feel like this was unique enough to facilitate, that additional shelf space. In comparison with those other games, I would rather have those two. But if you're an engineer and you really like that, gear kind of mechanism where you're going and shifting things and trying to navigate that kind of puzzle, this one might be something that you want to check out. I would definitely try before I buy on this one. And again, this is going to hit my giveaway pile, so find somebody that will appreciate it a little bit more than me and get it to them. So that was Mechanical Beast. And I did want to talk a little bit about upcoming plans. I am doing a Origins preview live stream next Wednesday, June 12th. I haven't determined the time yet, so stick tuned to all those different socials to see exactly when I'm going to do that. But I will be doing an Origins preview as well on the next episode. Probably referencing some of those old episodes. If you are going to Origins and want some tips, definitely go into the back catalog and look at some of those old Origins previews. I do give a lot of tips for first timers on there. If you will be joining us for the first time, I will be at Origins on Wednesday through Saturday. We are leaving Saturday nights to come back. We are not staying the full time. We did decide to head back on Saturday night. So, we're just going to miss a day. But please do get a hold of us if you feel like hanging out and want to play a game, want to eat something, whatever. Please do get a hold of me. Love meeting up with people. Made great connections last time, with some wonderful people, and looking forward to doing some more of that this year as well. The live stream will be very chill. It's just going to be me with a cup of coffee going over the games that are coming out, what my thoughts are, what I'm excited for, what you might want to see as well. Give you some insight onto things that I have played that will be either doing demos or coming out or coming soon at Origins. So I think that is going to do it for us today. You can check out the website at cardboardtime.com. Our Instagram is at cardboard_time. Blue Sky is at cardboardtime. The Discord on the Tabletop Express server, you can always email me for an invite or check out the website. There is a link there as well. And any questions, suggestions, or ideas for discussion topics, you can always email that cardboardtime@gmail.com email address. And as always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you around the table in 2 weeks for another episode of Cardboard Time. And hopefully on the live stream too. Make sure you come there. Come join me. Keep me company.